3 of the comprehensive plan. Mr. Slett?
I'm sure he'll be back tonight.
Yes, Commissioner Gibbs.
So I would like to get some direction from Dan. So obviously, this agenda was amended sometime after Thursday, Friday morning. Is there any procedure as far as amending the agenda, and does it have to go in a timely manner? Does the public have to be noticed? Can you help me out with that?
24 hours notice for a meeting. Newspaper has to be notified. Those were all done.
So this was not amended out of order.
Okay.
No, I'm just.
This was an issue that was brought up on Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday after that long meeting.
Yeah.
The city planners need some guidance because they're coming up with a draft on January 9th.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity for the planning commission to provide some guidance as to what this draft may or may not look like.
Okay.
So the reason it was amended was because that was the discussion on Wednesday to have this on the agenda for Monday so that more input can be provided to the city planners. The reason it was amended was because when the first agenda came out, it wasn't on there. Once it was caught that it was not on there, that's why it was amended.
Welcome back, Mr. Slavin. We are at agenda item 13.
Okay. I had to catch an applicant to remind them that the Plan Commission vote on a conditional use is not the final vote on a conditional use.
Thank you. So do you want to present what it is you're looking for?
Well, after the meeting on Wednesday, where I was present, I discussed with Jackie that there seemed to be some emerging consensus about things that either need to be amended in the plan or added to the plan. And she had very similar notes to the notes that I had taken. And I thought this would be a good chance to run what we had heard past the Plan Commission to see if we're on track, if we missed something, or if there's disagreement, that there was consensus. And so I've got a list here if you're interested in hearing that.
I think we are. I think we want to know what you heard and make sure that it agrees with what we said.
So my intention is this is not necessarily a complete list. It's a draft. It's a draft list. So we heard a lot of perspectives on closing Wrigley Drive. Several people mentioned we should study whether closing Wrigley Drive is a good idea. And that seemed to be, we saw a lot of heads nodding about studying whether Wrigley Drive should be turned into a plaza.
And what you're suggesting is that study should go into the comprehensive plan.
Right, rather than a recommendation to turn Wrigley Drive into a plaza, the plan should recommend that that be studied.
I got a question.
Yes, Commissioner Gibbs.
So that study would be at the cost of? I just want to make it clear. I understand that.
Not free.
I know that. Okay, I just want.
That wasn't, Commissioner Gibbs, the study was recommended as part of a bigger presentation, and that was not put in the hands of the city. It was not put in the hands of the Business Improvement District. It wasn't assigned to anybody. It was just that before anything gets done, there should be a study.
Well, I'm not in favor of any study, because I'm not in favor of closing down Wrigley Drive, so.
What did the other commissioners think?
I agree with John.
Okay.
As do I.
Puts us all in a really tough position, doesn't it? Another tough position?
Well, that's why we're here.
I was at the Roger Brooks presentation, and if I remember correctly, this is what confuses me. He said that hands down without a doubt, perfectly proven that if they put the plaza in there, the local businesses would actually see a 20%, a minimum of 20% increase in business activity. And there's a disconnect because the business owners, Demetrius, very, very concerned, and rightfully so. Should we just take Roger Brooks' word for that? But I don't think he's built his reputation on misleading communities. And one of the things that I think that should be followed up with him is to maybe get some documentation, some letters from businesses in other areas that did this to say, yes, we did see an increase in business. Here are the benefits that we've seen, et cetera, that would go into if you were looking at studying this a little bit. But this is where the disconnect is between what the presentation was and what the business owners heard and fear. So I would like to have an answer to that question, but I'm not closed-minded to it but if it does hurt the businesses, I would not in any way be in favor of it. I've heard people say that, even for the boat tours, that buses need to get up so handicapped people can, get there. So, how it would be designed that you could still get deliveries to it or buses, if it did go through, if that first issue was properly addressed to everyone's satisfaction. So, you asked for some, input. That's what's going through my mind.
So just so I understand, that studying this issue should include information about what other communities have done. It should include testimonials one way or the other on whether that the information that was presented was their experience. That then of course we have safety concerns, we have transportation issues with tour buses and so are you asking for just a couple of questions first and then?
I would say that they would be almost individual gates or steps, that if the first fundamental question that has the local businesses highly concerned isn't, and we can't address that issue properly, then no use doing additional studies. But if we can show and actually start satisfying some of these fears with proven track records to everyone's satisfaction, then it would be worthy of investing more to look into these other issues. That's how I would approach it.
So a study should answer one question affirmatively before any other work is done, and that's, is it a help to local businesses or not?
Yes.
And that's the first gate, as you call it.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent?
I'm pretty much in agreement. I think of feasibility to say that we're not going to do something because we believe it might hurt us doesn't give us the possibility to consider it, thinking it'll enhance who we are, enhance the businesses around Wrigley Drive. And I think that was our vision, that it would enhance the businesses and enhance the park and enhance the experience. Yeah, I'm not sure where you start with the feasibility study. I don't know that you necessarily can go back to Roger Brooks and ask him for his information about what's happened in other communities. We really have to look at it from our point of view. And how are people going to get around? If we can answer the questions of how do people that have disabilities, how do they park, how do deliveries get made? I would have liked to have done a temporary closing during the summer for a month just to see how that happened, how did that feel. Maybe that's something we do in an off month like May, May before Memorial Day or something, just to see how people react to it. I mean, it could be something that we turn back 5 years later and said, boy, it's great that we did, or it could be the opposite. So I think it's something to think about. I think more people like to walk. There's more walking, there's more walkability. It's all we keep hearing, and everything I look at is enhancing the experience, enhancing the community, having it being walkable. Forget about bikeable, but just walkable and people enjoying it. So, you know, how do we, let's just not discard that because we believe it's going to do damage. Let's prove it's going to do damage and then discard.
I know we haven't talked about it at the council, but we have been tried by fire and all accused of approving it, but I know I haven't talked about it at any, but I'm not on Public Works, but we haven't talked about anything at the council. I think there are some positive things. I also see the obvious negative things. I think of parking, handicap, accessibility. I think of people getting concessions and catering into the Riviera. And so, but I also see the positive things. I honestly think it could really enhance the restaurants by having extensions of the restaurants out into the front. And I think there could be some really great opportunities, but we really haven't talked about it or even just had council discussions to see if it's something and to get some ideas from each other. I think it would be a good idea to study it. I like Ann's idea. I would have loved to have seen the temporary shutdown, bollarded scenario, make sure the police and fire can get in, and if we can figure out some of those scenarios with the Riviera, the enhancements we're talking about making there, changing bathrooms, changing use, trying to create an active place, not 24/7, but a lot more than what it is now. Sure would be nice to have a safe, large area. When I think about the large area from the library all the way to Wrigley Drive, I think that could be pretty cool. Again, there's some downsides too, and I'd like to see those things answered. So,
and I agree with all of this, but I do think that the first question, as Commissioner Pajoli said, that we ought to answer, that is, does this help or harm businesses? What have other experiences been? And then proceed from there. Maybe part of understanding that is a temporary thing for, I mean, clearly Venetian Fest doesn't count as something like that, but does that draw so many people? Does that help, Mr. Stein?
Does that, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're good. I think one of the caveats I'd like to understand about that study, if it takes place, is the metropolitan size. We can't really compare Lake Geneva to Memphis, where they have a whole block closed off specifically for bars and restaurants, stuff of that nature. So I think the sample size needs to be relevant to what Lake Geneva is, because I've been all across the country, and the only ones I've ever seen that really truly been successful are larger metropolitan areas for that kind of study. So
Reasonable?